Welcome back to the More Than Just a Recruiter series. Excited to have this next coach with us, Coach Dwayne Stevens from Michigan State University. Coach Stevens has been the epitome of success, but not only the epitome of success, the epitome of consistency. Over years and years of coaching, his teams are a staple in the NCAA tournament. Several Final Fours, several Elite Eights. And several guys make it to the highest level of basketball. So clearly, he's doing some things right. Coach Stevens, thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me, man. I should hire you as an agent.
Hey, one day.
I got you.
So excited to have you on. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me. Without a doubt, in this industry, you're one of the best recruiters in the game. But what I want to focus on is that it's much bigger than just being a recruiter, right? And the additional things that you bring to the table, as well as some of the other guys that I've had on. And a funny thing, I was talking to CY in a previous interview, and your name came right up. And he talked about you and what you've done. So I want to get you on, talk about your journey, talk about what it's taken to get to this point here, and then some advice that you would give to younger coaches as they navigate through this process and navigate through the goal and the dream of one day, being on a national championship team, or one day being on a team that makes it to the Final Four. So excited to chat with you. Without further ado, let's dive into it, and let's talk a little bit about when you first started coaching. What was did you know that you wanted to be a coach after your playing days at Michigan State? How did that all come about, you stepping into the coaching side of the game?
So it's funny, as a player, I always felt like I would be a coach one day. I saw how much the coaches put into, making us better players, making us better people, and just the game preparation. And it was something that always intrigued me. So I pretty much knew that if I didn't have a pro career, I wanted to get into coaching. So I knew pretty early on. Played for about 4 years over in Europe, and then I was fortunate enough for Greg Campy to hire me at Oakland. And when I went on in Oakland, it was kind of as a volunteer. This was before you had a DOBO or restricted earnings coach. So I just kind of volunteered, and I had saved up enough money from playing overseas that I was able to go there for about my first year. I think I made $1,000, and my second year I made $2,500. So, but it was an unbelievable experience, and I was able to move on to Marquette from there.
So reflecting back on that experience and reflecting on the opportunity that Campy gave you there at Oakland, when younger coaches they're offered opportunities or opportunities come open that you look at the salary, you look at what's being paid there, and you say, I don't know if I can do this. How important is it to get your feet wet in those type of situations where maybe the earnings they're not necessarily a livable wage, or not necessarily something that you can bank on, but the experience is invaluable. So talk a little bit about how important that piece of your journey was.
Well, for me, I was fortunate, to be honest with you. I think everyone's path is different. For me, I was able to live at home, and like I said, I saved up some money. Oakland University was about a half hour from where I grew up, so it wasn't as tough for me as maybe it would be for some others. It was the experience that I had there was invaluable. I got a chance to recruit right away, and it was at the time Oakland was going from Division II to Division I, so we really didn't have weren't a part of a league. I just went out recruiting quite a bit in the Detroit area, tried to build up my contacts and things like that. But really the relationships with the players and with the coaching staff is the thing that I'll always remember about Oakland.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You transitioned from Oakland to Marquette. Marquette, you had some pretty special teams there. I mean, Dwayne Wade, Final Four. I mean, talk to me a little bit about that experience going from, taking a team to Division I, from Division II to Division I in Oakland, and then, what you guys were able to accomplish there in Marquette.
Well, I think, we all think we're working pretty hard. I thought I was working hard at Oakland, and when I got to Marquette, it was kind of a culture shock for me, to be honest. We had really long days. We usually got into the office around 8 o'clock, and there were times where we wouldn't leave until midnight, and we'd be back in at 8 o'clock the next day. Um, so I think Coach Crean taught me how to work hard, how to work smart, how to maintain relationships. So my time there was unbelievable. I think Coach Crean is one of the best in the business when it comes to recruiting, and I learned a ton there. But my experience at Marquette was unreal because at the time, what's crazy is you look back at it. I was the only minority in the athletic department. So you talk about, having to find your way and, lean on some different people within the profession as to, how you want to carry yourself, how you want to portray yourself, and how to move forward in the profession and be a professional. I learned a lot from a lot of different people.
Let's talk a little bit about that. I mean, we've all experienced and had experiences where, we were, there were a limited number of us or a limited number of minorities in the, whether it be a workspace, whether it be, in your situation, entire athletic department. Talk to me a little bit about the mentors that you leaned on to help guide you in that pathway and help you to develop and understand what it was going to take to be successful in those type of environments.
Well, I was fortunate enough to spend some time back in Michigan State with Mike Garland. Mike Garland is one of my best friends, but also like a father figure to me. I don't make a decision in my life without talking to him first, and he helped me out a ton because he had worked with Crean at Michigan State, so he kind of knew what Crean was expecting, and obviously they were at the time they were playing and winning at a high level, and then Coach Crean wanted to continue that. Stan Joplin, who was an assistant when I played, was also a mentor of mine. He helped me a lot. He was the guy that when I was a player, I could go and sit in his office and talk to him, tell him about the problems and things that I had going on in my life, and he would help me with those things. Then also there was some guys that were peers of mine that would also tell me, and we would kind of learn through each other's experiences. Mark Montgomery, who's now the head coach at Northern Illinois, was at Central Michigan at the time, and we had played together over in Europe and at Michigan State. So he was my closest friend, so we talked all the time. And then Tracy Webster, he's no longer in the profession, but he coached at Purdue, Illinois, Ball State, Kentucky, at Cal with Conzo. So he was another guy that I leaned on. And then my cousin, Cornell Mann, who's now at Missouri. At the time, he was actually at a Division II Elmira, and he worked his way up. He was at Dayton, and then he was at Iowa State with Fred Hoiberg, and now he's at Missouri.
So it's important to have those people you can lean on and those people that you can talk to and get good counsel from and navigate through the process. For a coach coming into the business now, talk to me a little bit about the importance of finding good mentors and good people to be able to bounce things off of and to be able to learn from.
I think there's a lot of guys out there that are willing to be those mentors for the younger group coming up. There's a lot of things that I didn't know about the profession when I first got in, and obviously when you're in it for such a long time, you pick up things as you go. And when you talk to different people that have mentored you or have gone through different situations at their different schools, you learn from that as well. So for me, when I think about trying to help out the younger generation, there's a lot of stuff that I like to tell them and a lot of stuff that I would do different if I had to go do it all over again. Obviously my journey has been one that, I've been blessed enough to have a lot of success at Marquette and here at Michigan State. But there, we all wish we had done or, did some things differently. one of the things that I would tell the younger generation is, for me growing up, um, my parents were old school. They told me to keep my head down, work hard, and I would get what I deserved. Um, and I think that is true, but I also think that there is a part of the profession that you have to network. You have to be an unbelievable networker. And I would say that that has not been a strength of mine. I realize that it's something that, some people in our culture would look at as brown nosing, um, you have to do that. I think you have to network with the media. You have to network with other coaches. You have to network with the search firms and different things like that. So that would be the biggest thing that I would tell some of the younger coaches. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and network and meet as many people as you can, and learn from as many people as you can.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. And I think you hit it right on the head. I hear that a lot, especially within the black coach fraternity, right? You have guys that are, they're worried about, coming across as if they're self-promoting, or they're worried about, coming across as if they're, like you said, brown nosing, or, trying to, the things that are viewed as self-promotion from us, a lot of times are viewed as, career development, or as, a necessary step for others. So it's important to hear somebody of your stature and of your success, say that for that younger generation of coaches, that not only is it necessary to network and build relationships, and really look to promote yourself, but it's imperative. If you're not doing that, it's hard to make to turn that corner and make that next step in your career. During your time, as you've navigated through the process and you've seen, the success, and sometimes success, is one of those things that for some people it motivates them, for some people, it makes them comfortable. As you've experienced, decades of success in this business, and you talk about, things that you would do differently, things that, from a networking standpoint, from that piece of the puzzle, talk to me a little bit about the path that you've taken for career development for yourself, as far as, stepping outside of that, that perception that recruiting is really our strong suit, or the only thing that we can bring to the table. But I look at, for example, the years that Michigan State basketball has been number one in the country in rebounding. And I know that that's something that you take as a personal, as a personal mantra, that, we got to attack that glass, and we've got to, be a tough team, and we've got to, be on top of that. So talk to me a little bit about your growth and development as a coach, as an X's and O's guy, and as a leader, within the huddle, and a leader on the floor.
Well, for me, I've been blessed to coach with three unbelievable coaches, all different, all expecting different things, all had their strengths and weaknesses. But the one thing that was common for me with all three guys is they let me wear a lot of different hats. I was never pigeonholed as just a recruiter, and that happens sometimes. And I would say to guys that get stuck or find themselves kind of in that position where they're looked at as just a recruiter, you got to always be trying to improve your craft. You got to watch film, you got to study, you got to make yourself invaluable to your organization. And you do that just by working, by the relationships. When someone asked, who Dwayne Stevens is, and it's somebody within our athletic department, I would hope that they would say he's an unbelievable father, unbelievable husband, unbelievably hard worker, someone that maintains great relationships, and someone that they respect. And you get that by being consistent and intentional in everything that you do. As minorities, I think we are definitely, how do I want to say this? We are definitely, eyes are always on us. People are watching what we're doing, how we move, And I think that a little more critical at times, but that's something that you have to embrace and understand that that's part of what's going on. And I think the things that are kind of going on in our country right now will benefit some of the younger coaches as we move forward. I think there's a small window for us to really take advantage of some of the stuff, going on in our country, and maybe some of the disparities in Black coaches, head coaches. And I think that, with everything going on, I think there's going to be a small window that you'll see a little bit of change. And those guys that are given opportunity, I think you got to make the most of your opportunities so that you can help the next guy coming up. The main thing for me now, I'm happy with what I've been able to achieve in my career. I would love to get a chance to work my and have my own program. It's something that I've worked hard for. It's something that at one time I would have said I kind of took the success that we've had for granted and just thought it was something that would just happen. It's not something that's promised to you, but I think you got to definitely go out there, work hard for it, put yourself out there, and I think good things will happen.
No, without a doubt. And you touched on that magnifying glass being on you. And indirectly, you touched on there being a double magnifying glass, right? So you have the magnifying glass as a Black man in America, as a Black man in the industry. But there's another magnifying glass when you're winning, right? Nobody talks about or is negative to the teams that aren't winning or the teams that aren't successful. The more successful you are, the more scrutiny and the more eyes are on you. And you've been in a situation where, for the last 2 decades, every single one of your teams has constantly been, a top team in the country, a team that's going to play in the NCAA tournament, a team that's going to compete at a high level, which, like you said, I mean, everything is watched and everything is critiqued and everything is evaluated. So when you talk about the desire to lead your own program and the desire to one day become a head coach, what are some of the things that you're doing now to prepare yourself for your moment when that moment does arise?
I think the biggest thing you can do to prepare yourself is spend as much time as you can trying to make your head coach's job easier. So I take things off of my head coach's plate. If there's a speaking engagement that he needs to go to, that he's tired, really don't want to do it, jump in there, offer to do it for him, whatever that may be. I think the more time you spend with your head coach and understand what's going on from a budget standpoint to scheduling to obviously game operations and how you're going to run the program, I think all of that is a part of preparing yourself to be a head coach. And like I said, there's some places where you're not allowed to do those things. And I've been blessed to work for Hall of Fame coach Tom Izzo now for 17 years, and we are encouraged and demanded to work and do those things as assistants. So I think that's one of the reasons a lot of his assistants have had a chance to go on and run their own programs and have had success. So it's a daily thing. You have to grind it out. I think you have to spend as much time within your athletic department, but also as much time with your head coach as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Coach Izzo a couple times and communicating with him. And one of the things that I'll say that I took from my interactions with him is, like you said, number one, not only is he just a great individual, but he is very, very direct, and he's very, a lot of times you have guys that you'll do something good and they won't tell you, right? And you'll do something bad, they're going to let you know it, right? Well, Coach Izzo, in my experiences, he'll go out of his way, it doesn't matter how big or how little it was, to say, hey, I appreciate this, or you did a good job with that. So I definitely think that servant leadership is something that culturally is something that Coach Izzo, has instilled, and makes sense that that's part of your build is, hey, I'm going to take things off of his plate to make his job easier on him. One of the things that I think is vitally important in coaching at any level is culture, number one, and number two, the people around you. So talk to me a little bit about that culture at Michigan State basketball. And you talked about Coach Garland, OG as we know him, and some of those. Talk about the culture as well as the fit of those guys around you and how that has created success and how you would look to do that as you run your own program.
Well, for me, I walked into a situation where the culture was kind of already built, and sometimes maintaining a culture is harder to do than it is building one.
Absolutely.
And we've been able to maintain a great culture here, family atmosphere for quite some time. Obviously, our culture is built on toughness and leadership, and that's some of the things that we look for in recruiting. I think about a player like a Travis Walton that we took, and a lot of people didn't think he was. They thought he was a good MAC player. No one really thought he was a Big Ten type player, but he brought unbelievable leadership to our program and toughness, and that was something that we needed at the time. Having been here for 17 years, I'd say there was a 3-year stretch where we went to 2 Final Fours in 3 years back in 2009-10. And won 3 straight Big Ten championships. And those were some of the toughest years of my coaching career, believe it or not. We were able to achieve some things, but from a culture standpoint, our culture wasn't what it was. And we had to regain that culture. Draymond Green, Austin Thornton were 2 people that really helped us bring back the culture to where guys were playing for one another. Guys were playing with toughness and playing the right way. I think we had kind of lost our way from the standpoint that we had some guys that may have been a little selfish and trying to achieve some things for themselves. And the funny thing about it is Coach Izzo is a coach that loves guys to write down their personal goals. And his belief is, if you achieve your personal goals, we will achieve our goals as a team. And when you're thinking about it, every kid wants to go to the NBA. So if you're playing good enough to become an NBA player, there's probably a good chance that we've achieved what we wanted to achieve as a team. And that's something that we talk about quite a bit. But our culture is something, like I said, that I can't take credit for. It was here when I got here. OG was an unbelievable high school coach, and he brought that same energy and passion to the college level. And I think, he took a tough job at Cleveland State, and, he had a little bit of success there, and then things just didn't work out. But I think he is one of the best basketball minds and one of the more wise people that I know. I love him to death, and he deserves a lot of credit for the success that we have here at Michigan State from a culture standpoint. We put a lot on our players, and we hold them to a high standard. It's something that we want you to be champions on the floor, but we also want you to be champions in the classroom, in the community, champion with your family, champion with your girlfriend, and some of our kids that have had kids of their own. We want you to be championship parents as well. So we strive to do everything in our lives at a high level. We've had some guys. We have a guy on our team right now, Josh Langford. I think he wants to be a pastor when he's finished playing, and he's a champion when it comes to his religion, and we encourage that. And he's brought a lot to our team, and he's taught us a lot as coaches. There's been guys in the past, Travis Trice, Travis Walton that I spoke of. Some of the guys that didn't get to the NBA, but are very, very, very integral and playing huge parts of our success and the culture that we've had and been able to maintain over a period of time.
That's awesome. And I can't remember who said it to me, but we talked about cultures, and there's two types of cultures, right? The ones that are built by default, and the ones that are built with intention and by design. And the ones by default, you can't really move people in and out and expect that culture to continue, right? The ones that are built by design, it doesn't matter who comes through that door because you're so intentional in what you do and finding the right fits and the right people to do what you do. And dating back to, I went to high school with Brandon Cotton, so dating back to Brandon Cotton's days, and him and I having conversations about sometimes you could be the best fit on the court, but not culturally the right fit for a locker room or culturally the right fit for a university. One of the things that you said, and I had to jot it down when you said it, it was pretty impactful, and that's understanding somebody's personal goals in order to reach the team goals. And a lot of times you don't hear that, right? A lot of times you hear people say, hey, the team first, and we'll deal with whatever that personal goal is later. Talk to me a little bit about how impactful that's been in your career, knowing that it's okay for you to have those personal goals, and it's not frowned upon for you to want more for yourself, but at the same token, knowing that, hey, if I'm pushing myself to one day be a head coach and one day run my own program, without a doubt, I'm going to be the best assistant coach I can possibly be for Coach Izzo. So talk to me a little bit about that.
No, it's something that Coach Izzo has always believed in, and obviously we've had a lot of success with it. Not only does he want the players to have personal goals, as you mentioned, he wants us as assistants to want to be head coaches. There's times where we recruit kids, and we got to know if that kid can play for Coach Izzo. There's a certain type of kid that can play for Coach, and there's other kids that may be super talented that may not fit into our culture and what we're trying to do here. But if I'm trying to be a head coach and I'm doing everything that I can within my power to strive to be that head coach, I'm going to be a better product and a better assistant for the players, not only for the players, but for Coach Izzo and for our university. And that's something that I strive to do every day. It's something that Coach pushes us to do. He holds us accountable to it. And I think that's something that's very important for people to know, is that we all say we want to be held to a high standard, and then when we are held to that high standard, we don't like it. You have to be, you got to be able to accept, criticism, and you have to be able to accept, when you screw something up or don't do something the right way. You can own up to it and then be better the next time. And that's something that we expect as coaches. So we have to kind of be that way as ourselves, So if I'm going to hold a player to that standard, I have to try to hold myself to that standard. And then Coach Izzo has to hold everybody in the program to a certain standard.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think that you hit the nail right on the head. I mean, I talk to young kids about that. Not only being coachable, but being willing to be coached, and being acceptant of the not necessarily because you have some guys that are just hard on kids, and they it's a little bit different, but being able to understand that when coach stops yelling at you or stops critiquing you, that's when you really need to be worried, right? It's not when he's on you because he sees something in you, because he understands that there's a lot of potential there. And so talk to me a little bit about, as you're recruiting players and you're navigating through figuring out, hey, is this person a right fit for Michigan State basketball? What does that process look like of evaluation? What steps do you take in order to identify who's the right fit?
So for us, we try to identify those players as early on as possible, and then start building that relationship with them and the people within their circle. For us, the number one things that we look for is toughness, obviously, is part of our program. Like I talked about leadership, I think about when we're recruiting Brandon Dawson and Travis Strice. They played on the same AU team. And we're really going to see Brandon, and we ended up recruiting Trice because he was such a good leader and he was a playmaker and he did so many good things on the floor. It's like, we have to recruit this kid. So we ended up recruiting him. But I remember one time specifically, we're watching Brandon and he wasn't in the game and he was on the bench. And for someone of his stature, how he cheered for his teammates and how he encouraged them from the bench was something that really stuck out to us. So a lot of times it's not always what you do on the floor that we're looking at. For us, we're looking at, what kind of student you are. A lot of times they parallel one another. If you're a good student, then that translates to the court. If you have good study habits, work habits, that's going to translate to the court as well. And then we want guys that are going to be unbelievable teammates because we spend a lot of time together. And you have to be able to take criticism from your coaches, but also from your teammates, and accept that and move forward. You spoke of Brandon Cotton, who was a heck of a player. I mean, McDonald's All-American, and it didn't work out for Brandon at Michigan State. And one of the things that I would say for him, the reason that it didn't work out, I think he was one of those kids that didn't want to accept. It wasn't the coaching from us; it was really from the players. The players were harder on him than they were on us. I can remember a time where, he was maybe late for a meeting, and the players got on him. It wasn't the coaches. And when you haven't had that in your life as you're coming up or in your career, a lot of times some of these top players, they come up and they've never been yelled at or never been told or held accountable to a certain standard because the head coach is worried about them transferring or going to a different school. For us, the reason the coach you see coach and he's going crazy, and you had the incident with Aaron Henry, a couple years ago in the NCAA tournament, and it got a lot of publicity because of how coach went at him. Well, the reason coach was able to go at him like that was because of the respect that they have for one another. The one thing that I would say about Tom Izzo that is his biggest strength over anything that he does in coaching is the amount of time that he's willing to spend with players and the relationships that he develops with them. And it's one of the reasons that guys come back. All our former players come back. It's one of the things that we love about our program. And you don't get that unless coach has a real relationship with you. And that's something that coach has been unbelievable at developing over time. So I'd say for us, when we're out recruiting, we look at the entire player. We look at how a kid responds and talks to us on the phone. Sometimes we may not think much of a guy as a player, and then we talk to him on the phone. It's like, wow, this kid is really sharp, and he's respectful. He can communicate and articulate what it is that he wants to say. Those things are important, and that's things that we look for in recruiting outside of just raw basketball talent.
Absolutely. And you said something that stands out, and I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on it. But the fact that you can go into a gym looking for one player, right, or recruiting somebody that you've already had on your list, or maybe somebody you've already offered, because a lot of times, guys don't understand. A lot of the recruiting process happens after the offer, not before the offer. So the fact that you walked into a gym focused on one person and the way somebody carried themselves and played, and not only played, but how they carried themselves as a teammate brought them to your radar. That's important for a lot of these young kids to understand as they go about their daily business, as they go about those practices, the competitions and the games. So that's something that I think is important. It stands out, and I hope that some young guys and some young ladies watching this, understand the importance of being a good teammate, the importance of cheering for the people that are on the floor, even when you're not, or when things aren't going the right way for you. That's pretty much. I mean, that's Michigan State basketball, right? And I look at, I grew up watching Michigan State basketball. I became a fan of Michigan State basketball because of Magic, right? Like Magic Johnson. When I was a kid and I would talk about, the different point guards, my dad would say, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Take a look at what Magic Johnson did, right? And, you went from that to, Mateen Cleaves and seeing what Mateen did and how he carried that team there. And, Mateen was never that guy that was going to give you 30, 40 points a game, but he was that guy that was a leader and a coach on the floor. And when I think of the culture of Michigan State basketball, I think about a Mateen. I think about Cassius. Those are the things that I think about. And those things stand out, and it stands out, and doesn't matter how individually talented a player may be, a great leader is going to be successful, not only on the court, but in life. So that's awesome to hear. What I want to do, I want to end with something for young coaches as they're walking into the business. You've been around for over 2 decades now. You've had extreme amount of success. What's that one piece of advice? If there's nothing else, obviously there needs to be a whole manual written for guys, but that one thing that if you have this one key piece of wisdom, what would it be for a guy that's saying, hey, I want to be a college coach?
For me, I'd say the one thing that I've learned over the years is you have to be intentional about what you want. Whether it's perfecting your craft, getting better. I think you have to try to be intentional and do those things on a daily basis. There should be a checklist that you have. Okay, did I touch base with, try to touch base with somebody different that can impact your career every day. It may be someone that you don't even know, but you should make it a point to reach out to that person. The one thing about the coaching fraternity is I'd say 95% of coaches are willing to help those guys that are up and coming. And a lot of times it's up to us or up to the younger guys to reach out and search for that, help and mentorship, because I think a lot of guys are willing to do it because they remember what it was like when they were at that point in their careers. So just be intentional about what you're trying to achieve and the things that you're trying to get done. And I think guys will have a lot of success doing that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You have to begin with the end in mind. You have to know what it is you're trying to accomplish. I think, I jotted down what you said because I'm going to utilize that in my life moving forward is, touch base with someone different every day. And I think that's something that, a lot of times, we get to a point where we feel like, what we have going on is too important, or we've got too many things happening. But there's always room for growth and development. There's always room to get better. And I think that if we live by that motto of touching base with somebody different every day and constantly educating ourselves, I think that extends, our reach and our capabilities of how far we can go and how much we can accomplish. So that's awesome. I'm gonna add that to my toolbox starting tomorrow for sure.
No question. And I got that from Tim Buckley. He's now an assistant with UNLV. We were assistants together at Marquette, and then he went on to be a head coach at Ball State, and then he hooked back up with Crean at Indiana. He is the best that I've ever been around in terms of staying up with people, reaching out and making contacts, and I'll get something from him 2 or 3 times a week. And it's an email that may, some notes from a clinic that he watched or a book that he read, and he passes those things on. And I think that's how you improve and maintain relationships, and that's how you get better.
That's awesome. Coach, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you taking time to talk with me, taking time to inspire, educate, and motivate that next generation of coaches that will see this and will hopefully learn from the things that you pointed out. I mean, there's a lot of gems that you gave us there, a lot of, a roadmap for younger guys to follow. And I'll be continuing to follow your path, continuing to follow your growth and development. And I know soon I'll be seeing you as the head of your own program, and we'll be able to talk back on this moment and talk about it. But I really appreciate you.
No, I appreciate you, and I appreciate what you're doing. I don't know what utopia is for you or what your ultimate goal is, but I have no doubt that you will get there. I enjoy watching your stuff. I enjoy reading everything that you do, and I appreciate what you're doing for our culture and community, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you so much, Coach. Much appreciated.
Yeah, take care, man.
All right, take it easy.